Howdy, it's John's D&D Vlog, episode number 27. Today we'll be talking about an old module from 1982 called The Lost City by Tom Moldvay. As usual, as always with these module reviews that I do, please, if you're a player, don't watch this because I'm going to be giving away stuff that will make your experience less fun. So please don't watch this episode any further if you're a player. So, as we usually do, let's begin with a super brief breakdown. This one's going to be a little large. It's a big module. This is the city of Synodicia. Hundreds of years previous to the time that your players show up, right? Miners in the city of Synodicia uncovered the lair of an ancient buried monster, Zargon. Zargon kills the miners and then sneaks out at night, killing random townsfolk. This goes on for a very long time, and the people of the city have no idea what to do about it. So the entire city falls to pieces psychologically, and the people begin to move underground in order to escape this new danger. Over the centuries, desert winds have covered the entire city with sand. The people have lived in seclusion now for hundreds of years. This has changed them. They now have paler skin, white hair, and are shorter. And most of them are completely unaware of the surface world. Because they've been living in a stagnant culture for centuries and are also living off of nothing more or less but mushrooms and other strange underground food, they tend to be a little crazy. So anyway, this is the basic background of the culture your PCs are going to stumble on. This, though, is how they're going to stumble on it. So you begin the adventure in one of your major cities, and your PCs are all hired to travel as armed guards for a caravan that will travel through the desert to protect it. During the trip, though, there's going to be a huge storm, and the entire caravan, except for your PCs, will all be swept away or buried in the storm. Your PCs will lose everything that they aren't physically holding on to, and then after the storm, your PCs will stumble around for days until they finally find the top of an ancient pyramid. And then at the very top of that ancient pyramid, they're going to find a secret door that's been wedged open. From here, if they choose to enter the pyramid, they're going to travel all throughout it. They might discover the monster Zargon, and they might discover the new underground city of Synodicia that the name of this module refers to. Honestly speaking, though, this module is huge and could possibly lead the PCs to any number of different sub-adventures. This is a complex module. It isn't for new DMs. It also isn't for DMs who don't like role-playing. You have to enjoy role-playing, the acting aspect of D&D, if you're going to enjoy this module, right? It probably isn't for new players. There's a lot of traps and odd circumstances here that new players might simply be overwhelmed by. If your group is into role-playing and you enjoy the acting aspect of RPGs, your group can have a lot of fun here. B2, Keep on the Borderlands, it's easy. Any player and any brand new DM can just walk up to it and begin to play without much preparing. B4 is the opposite of this, though. It takes skill to do it well, so keep that in mind. For the record, this module is almost as complex and almost as big as T1 to 4, the Temple of Elemental Evil. It's got 100 rooms, but then on top of it, it also has a city. The Temple of Elemental Evil was 144 pages long. This module, The Lost City, it's only 38. So what does that mean, right? It means that you, the DM, are going to be asked to do a lot of things without much help on how or why those things need to be done. So in other words, you have to do your homework. There's a total of 9 different main parts to the story, and each one of them is kind of an important part of the entire story as a whole. It reminds me a little bit of the Isle of Dread in that you move from mini-story to mini-story as you go throughout the module, right? But in the Isle of Dread, you go to one particular story and you finish the story, and then there's a lot of time before you move on to the next story, like several days of traveling. But here in this module, all of these mini-stories, they might start happening all at the same time. It just depends on what order your players go and visit the different parts of the module. So anyway, here are those 9 big major points of the module, and I'll go through them one by one. So number 1, the 4 factions. Somehow you've got 4 different religions, political movements within the city, within the pyramid that don't get along. But they also seem to never resort to war, because all 4 of them are more or less equally powerful. If there was constant war going on, one of the factions would have taken over. But somehow there's 4, and they're all relatively equal. So you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. 2, within the pyramid, there are the remains of the king and the queen and the rest of the royalty. It's a graveyard. Number 3, Demetrius and Darius. There's 2 brothers who hate each other. One is dead but can possess someone to help him get revenge. It's another subplot, right? This thing is a huge monster condo. It is like the definition of a monster condo. There are all sorts of monsters all throughout this place, more or less in every room, and there's no particularly good reason for any of those monsters to be there. So monster condos are looked down on. Experienced players tend to not like monster condos. They tend to get made fun of, and honestly speaking, for pretty good reason. Here's some advice though on how to make it all make more sense. I talk about this in the guide I made for this module, but I'll give it here again, right? I gave Zargon 2 more special abilities, and I think those abilities help make the module make more sense. The first is Flesh to Stone, and then he's also got the ability to endow contingency on an object. So anyway, Zargon, who has 8 tentacles, right? If he can use 3 of those tentacles and hold on to a creature for 3 rounds, the creature that he's attacking is turned to stone. He then has the ability to set up a contingency for when those creatures can be revived. When I ran the module, I made it so that the creatures were all revived if the door to their room was ever opened by someone other than Zargon himself. Anyway, I see Zargon as a collector. He collects creatures. He uses them as both his defenses, but also as his zoo. He just likes to walk around examining his collection. 5, Zargon the Final Encounter. He is explained well enough in the module. I won't go into detail on him. 6, the city of Synodicea itself, at the very bottom of everything. They show you a map, and they talk about a few areas, but aside from that, they don't give you any real advice on how to run it. The city of Synodicea came with a really interesting perspective-styled map, and that's nice, but I prefer the standard bird's eye map, so I made this. I also added businesses to the map. Honestly speaking, this entire city is supposed to be crazy, so the entire idea of having businesses here might be an incorrect thing to do. But whatever. You do what you want to do. I added businesses to mine. I can't imagine a completely crazy civilization that would actually continue to exist for hundreds of years. There's got to be some level of civilization there, in my opinion. The book says that 1,000 adults live here, so I'm guessing that perhaps the city has maybe 3,000 total people in it. My map assumes a somewhat high level of civilization. You do what you want to do. Like I said, those 4 factions, the Temple of Zargon and the strongholds of Gorm, Madarua, and Usamigaras, the buildings for each of these religions, the central building for each of these religions are a stone's throw away from each other. And they don't get along, but they never go to war. I don't know how you're going to roleplay that. Good luck. Have a good time. Mushrooms. Everyone lives on mushrooms here, so how does this affect them? The book says that the people here, many of them are insane, so okay, I'm blaming it on their diet. I went into detail on the mushrooms, right? I saw it as a huge potential plot device, so I made the following list of the different types of mushrooms available throughout this module and the different sorts of side effects they each have. I suggest that prolonged exposure to any of them result in a subtle but steady march towards some kind of insanity, which means that could affect your players too over time. This is how I run it. You'll have to choose what you're going to do. In the city, there is also 3 different locations your players can explore. It's expected that you will design these 3 areas on your own. Here's the main problem, though. You don't know what level your characters are going to be when they get to them. That makes it really hard to design these adventures ahead of time, right? So my suggestion is that you keep one of these 3 books on hand and resort to it when the time comes. They contain a whole bunch of small adventures that you can study up on quickly and then just run, right? They're all good books. Each of them has good mini-modules, but unfortunately none of these mini-modules come with maps. So you're going to have to draw up your own if you need them. But they are good books. I have a group that's currently running through D1 to 3. In D1 to 3, they ask you to design a lot, and I mean a lot of your own adventures. This is the map I drew for D1 to 3. Anyway, to save myself some time and to make it a little more interesting, I chose to put B4 into one of these areas. D1 to 3, I mean, it stems off of the G3 Hall of the Fire Giant King, which is a mountain desert kind of area, right? So I took a couple of other desert locations and put them into this map. So I'm using 2 different modules with this map. The first one's B4, the Lost City, but then I got Dark Tower down there as well. From here I usually go on with some more stories. Unfortunately, I don't have many. My group started the adventure, they made it to the city, they had fun exploring, then they made boats out of the huge mushrooms they found there, and we're beginning to explore the Isle of Death. It was fun, but they all just decided to stop one night. I think they just got bored. It's a good module. It has huge potential, but for my group anyway, it seems like I wasn't a good enough of a DM for them to pull it off successfully. A few words of final advice, though. Several hundred years of being underground would definitely change the Synodicians. I mean, physically and also culturally. So how would it change them? So here's a list of different things you can think about that'll help you flesh out the world a little bit more. Also, if you'd like to perhaps get in the mood for this module and see like a movie that could help you understand what this module's trying to do, there's an old movie from the 50s called The Mole People. In it, they show a bunch of explorers who travel underground and meet up with a civilization of lighter-skinned locals who spend their days eating mushrooms and trying to defend themselves from the local monsters. Anyway, the plot is quite similar to what you'll find in B4. It's fun. Don't take it too serious, but it's fun. And Leave It to Beaver's word cleaver's in it, so I don't know. That's kind of fun to see too. If you've had a better experience with this module than I did, please comment about it in the comment section below a lot, because I'd love to hear your advice. Anyway, thanks a lot. Please tell your friends about me. Please subscribe. Please comment. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.